Deliberate practice. Imagine yourself sitting at a piano, fingers poised above the keys, knowing that the next hour will be spent not on the songs you love to play, but on the scales that make your fingers stumble. You're choosing the discomfort of precision over the comfort of what comes easily. There's something almost contradictory about this choice, isn't there? Why would anyone deliberately seek out their weaknesses when they could bask in their strengths? The paradox of deliberate practice lies in this strange inversion of our natural impulses. We are drawn to what feels good, what flows effortlessly, what confirms our existing abilities. Yet the very activities that feel most uncomfortable, most challenging, most likely to expose our limitations are precisely the ones that transform us. How can something that feels like moving backward actually be the fastest way forward? On one hand, deliberate practice demands that you step directly into the realm of your incompetence. You seek out the mistakes, the fumbles, the moments when your mind says, I can't do this. It's the violin student who spends an hour on a single measure that keeps going wrong, rather than playing through the entire piece that sounds lovely but teaches nothing new. It's the writer who forces herself to tackle the scene she's been avoiding, the one that feels impossible to capture in words. On the other hand, this deliberate discomfort is precisely what creates the neural pathways that didn't exist before. Your brain responds to struggle by building stronger connections, by developing new routes around obstacles. The difficulty isn't a bug in the system of learning, it's the feature that makes growth possible. Without resistance, there's no adaptation. You might notice how this challenges everything our comfort-seeking minds want to believe about improvement. We imagine that getting better should feel good, that progress should be smooth and encouraging. But deliberate practice reveals that the feeling of struggle isn't a sign you're doing something wrong. It's often the clearest indicator you're doing something right. The discomfort is information, telling you exactly where the growing edge lies. Consider how this plays out in the life of a surgeon learning a new procedure. She could perform the operations she's already mastered, feeling confident and competent with each success. Instead, deliberate practice means seeking out the cases that push her beyond her current skill level, working under the careful eye of a mentor who will catch every imperfection. Each mistake in this controlled environment becomes knowledge that could save a life later. The temporary blow to her ego becomes permanent expansion of her capability. There's something beautiful about how deliberate practice reframes failure entirely. In normal life, we treat mistakes as evidence of inadequacy, something to hide or quickly move past. But in deliberate practice, errors become the most valuable data points. They're breadcrumbs leading you directly to the specific skills that need attention. Each failure is a precise diagnosis of exactly what to work on next. This creates an almost meditative relationship with difficulty. You begin to welcome the moments when things fall apart, because they reveal so much more than the moments when everything goes smoothly. The basketball player celebrates the shots that clang off the rim in practice, because each miss carries information about angle, force, timing that a swoosh conceals. The comedian treasures the jokes that bomb during rehearsal, because they teach more about rhythm and audience than applause ever could. Yet there's also a deeper paradox within this process. Deliberate practice requires you to become comfortable with being uncomfortable, which seems to contradict itself. How can you simultaneously embrace struggle and find peace within it? The answer lies in shifting your relationship to the struggle itself. Instead of fighting against the difficulty, you learn to dance with it. You start to notice how the quality of your attention changes everything. When you approach your weaknesses with curiosity rather than judgment, the same challenging task feels entirely different. The notes you can't quite reach become interesting puzzles rather than personal failings. The concepts that slip away from your understanding become invitations to explore rather than evidence of limitation. This shift in perspective doesn't make the practice easier, but it makes it sustainable. The wisdom traditions have always understood this principle in different forms. The monk sitting in meditation isn't trying to achieve a state of constant bliss. She's practicing being present with whatever arises, especially the uncomfortable thoughts and feelings she'd rather avoid. The martial artist doesn't seek out opponents he can easily defeat. He finds teachers who will repeatedly expose his weaknesses until they become strengths. There's something profound about how this mirrors the larger patterns of growth in life itself. The relationships that challenge us most deeply often teach us the most about love. The work that pushes us beyond our current capacity creates the skills we didn't know we needed. The experiences that initially feel too difficult to handle become the foundation of our resilience. Nature seems to have built transformation through beneficial struggle into the very fabric of existence. As you reflect on this tonight, you might find yourself thinking about the edges of your own comfort zone. Where are the places you've been avoiding practice because it feels too difficult, too exposing, too uncertain? What would change if you began to see those uncomfortable edges not as boundaries to your ability, but as doorways to growth you haven't yet claimed? Perhaps the deepest wisdom of deliberate practice is that it teaches us to trust the process even when we can't see the progress. Some nights, after hours of focused work on your most challenging areas, you might feel like you've moved backward rather than forward. Your playing sounds worse, your writing feels clunkier, your performance seems to have deteriorated. But beneath the surface, in ways your conscious mind can't yet perceive, new neural pathways are forming, new connections are strengthening. The practice asks you to plant seeds in soil that looks barren, trusting that something is growing even when you can't see the shoots. It's not about solving the paradox of why difficulty creates ease, struggle builds strength, and confusion leads to clarity. It's about noticing how this ancient truth wants to work through your own willingness to meet your edges with gentle persistence.